Hey everyone, welcome to the open world Warcraft, where we're 100% focused on open world PvE content in World of Warcraft. Things like leveling, world quest, delves. I'm Setsuko, and in this video what I want to do is take a look at the Hunter class talent tree and just kind of go through the talents, point out things that I think are must-haves or really nice to have in open world content on Hunters, and the things that I think you could probably skip, and everything in between. Before we get started, I do want to address a little issue here with this. First off, all hunters can have a pet and a pet version of their specialization build. Okay, we do have an exception with marksmanship hunter where you can pick up lone wolf, and that's what we'll refer to it as, lone wolf, which makes you not have a pet. As we go through the talent tree, I'm going to try to point out areas where things might be more or less valuable if you're playing as the lone wolf hunter. So all three of our specializations start out with the talent kill shot. Kill shot, great ability here, instant cast, 10-second cooldown. It's an execute. We can use it on enemies that have less than 20% health, and it does a big chunk of damage. Very nice to have. Looking at the other talents on our top row here, we have natural mending. Every 10 focus you spend will reduce the cooldown on exhilaration by 1 second. Exhilaration is one of the only ways we have to heal ourselves as a hunter, especially in combat heals. You might not always need this depending on your build, depending on your pet, depending on who you're fighting. But in general, I like buffing exhilaration. And so for me, any exhilaration buffs are good. I would say, especially if you're on marksmanship hunter and you don't have that pet to tank for you, this becomes even more valuable. For me, this is a must take for all specializations. Next, we have post haste. Disengage frees you from all movement impairing effects and increases your movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds. Generally speaking, I don't find much good use for this in open world content. Usually you're going to be able to handle whatever it is that you're fighting. You don't necessarily need to disengage. However, I do like to pick this up if you're able to do the little camera trick with disengage, where basically you're running one direction, you quickly turn around, you disengage, which knocks you backwards, which since you've turned around is the direction you were trying to go anyway, and then you turn back around and you get the movement speed boost. So if you can do that little trick, you can actually use disengage to throw yourself in the direction you're going and get a movement speed boost. If you can't do that or you don't want to do that, I would just skip this. But you know, if you can and you like doing it, it's pretty fun. You could pick up this talent point. Moving to the second row, we have rejuvenating wind. This increases your maximum health by 8%, which is just nice anyway. And also makes it so that exhilaration heals you for an additional 12% of your maximum health over 8 seconds. I just said I like buffing exhilaration, plus we get 8% maximum health increase, mandatory pickup, all three specializations for me. Next, we have Hunter's Avoidance. Damage taken from area of effect attacks is reduced by 5%. Not too worried about picking this up for open world content, so this can be an easy skip. And then we have Improved Kill Shot. Kill Shot's critical damage is increased by 25%. This is a really nice one to pick up in my opinion, so I would go ahead and snag this one on all three specializations. Next, we have Wilderness Medicine. Mend Pet heals for an additional 25% of your pet's health over its duration and has 25% chance to dispel a magic effect each time it heals. Really, we like this for the bonus 25% to healing your pet when you're casting Mend Pet. If you're going to cast it, you want to heal your pet. Healing more is better. It's great. So to me, this is a mandatory pickup on every specialization except for Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf, you don't have a pet. Tar Trap. This is a 30-second cooldown instant cast trap here. It puts a tar trap out, and enemies that go into it have 50% reduced movement speed. This can be pretty nice for you on that lone wolf marksmanship hunter as a way to slow down enemies in a group if that's something that you want to do. Generally, for the other specializations, I'm not too worried about picking this up, so I wouldn't pick it up unless I needed it to lead me into something else, which we'll see here in just a minute. Our next talent is Tranquilizing Shot. This removes an enrage and magic effect from an enemy with a 10-second cooldown. Generally not worth using in open world content. If you're fighting a particular boss or elite or something that has this issue, you could spec into it for that fight and then spec out. So generally for me, this is going to be a skip as well. Then we have Concussive Shot. So this dazes the target, slowing their movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. If you have a pet, I wouldn't worry about picking up concussive shot. If you are playing Lone Wolf, I would definitely, to me, it's mandatory to get concussive shot just to have that movement slowing effect on there. Into the next row, we have Survival of the Fittest. This is a ability with a 2-minute recharge that reduces all damage you and your pet take by 30% for 6 seconds. Very nice defensive ability. 2-minute cooldown is pretty rock solid for open world content. I do in general like to pick this up. It'll also kind of help us get further down into the tree here. But if you feel like you're doing pretty well and you don't need the defensive, you could skip this one. For me, it's a pickup. Next, we have Entrapment. This is a perk, a modification to our tar trap. So when it's activated, this roots all enemies in that tar trap for 4 seconds. Damage taken can break the root. If you're going to be getting tar trap on a lone wolf hunter, then this can be a really nice pickup because instead of the movement speed reduction, you're just going to root everything that's in that tar trap, which can be really nice. So if you are using tar trap regularly, this can be a good pickup for that, especially if you're not using a pet. Next, we have Muzzle, and if we're on Marksmanship and Beast Mastery, this is going to be Counter Shot. This is our Interrupt. Mandatory pickup for every single specialization. Because of that, that makes Tar Trap, in my opinion, a mandatory pickup for every specialization, unless you really just want to get Tranquilizing Shot for some reason. But for me, I'm going to opt for Tar Trap to get into Muzzle. We want that Interrupt. Next, we have a choice node that's going to modify our Tranquilizing Shot. The first is Kodo Tranquilizer, which causes it to remove 1 additional magical effect from up to 2 nearby targets. And then we have Devil Sar Tranquilizer. It will remove only an enrage effect. If it only removes an enrage effect, its cooldown is reduced. Honestly, I don't really care about either one of these talent points for Tranquilizing Shot for open world content. So to me, that's a fairly easy skip. Next, we have Misdirection. So this is a 30-second cooldown ability that will misdirect all threat you cause to a target party or raid member. You can use this to misdirect threat onto your pets if you feel like it's necessary, if you're drawing a lot of aggro. So obviously, if you're playing Lone Wolf, skip this. If you find that this is an issue, then you can go ahead and grab Misdirection. Whether you get Tranquilizing Shot or you get Concussive Shot to get you there, that's really up to you. On the next row, we have Scout's Instincts. So you cannot be slowed below 80% of your normal movement speed while Aspect of the Cheetah is active. Generally, I don't care about this one too much because when I'm using Aspect of the Cheetah in open world content, it's to travel. It's to go through a room, it's to go to the next enemy, you know, it's for something like that. And so I'm generally not in combat, I'm not getting slowed, etc. You could put this in here as just kind of like a safeguard if you wanted to. But it's really kind of up to you. You could put those points elsewhere. But as you see, we're already here and we need to spend another point to even get to this tier. So, you know, you're going to have some extra points kind of floating around. For me, I would pick up Post Haste for the little disengage shenanigans there that I like to do. Our next talent point is going to be Padded Armor. This gives Survival of the Fittest an additional charge. For me, this isn't necessarily a mandatory pickup, but it can be nice if you use Survival of the Fittest. When you have 2 charges and you're basically able to use this every minute or so, then you can kind of work it into a regular rotation, which can be kind of nice, especially for the damage reduction for your pet. So really just comes down to your playstyle and whether you like that damage reduction. Next, we have Lone Survivor. So this reduces the cooldown of Survival of the Fittest by 30 seconds and increases its duration by 2 seconds. So again, we're getting that cooldown reduction. So it goes down to a 90 second recharge instead of 2 minutes, which makes that extra charge even more valuable. This also reduces the cooldown of Counter Shot and Muzzle, our Interrupt, by 2 seconds. Very solid pickup, so it's kind of up to you. I would definitely get one of these 3 to get yourself into the left side of this tree because there is some nice stuff over here. Which one you take, which one you pick is kind of up to you. Me personally, I would probably go with the cooldown reduction here, and if I had a spare point, I might pick up that additional charge. Our next one is going to be Wildfire Bomb, deals 10% increased damage through Specialized Arsenal. For Our Marksmanship Hunter aim shot deals 10% increased damage. And for our Beast Mastery, Kill Command deals 10% damage. Each one of these abilities is one of your core rotation abilities for each of these specializations, regardless of whether you're Lone Wolf or not. Mandatory pickup to me for every single specialization. 10% increased damage on one of your main abilities is very, very nice. Next, we have Disruptive Rounds. When Tranquilizing Shot dispels an effect, or when Muzzle interrupts a cast, you gain 10 focus. This can be a really nice quality of life. If you do find yourself in a situation where, you know, focus is hard to come by, you could pick this up as an additional resource for you to be able to get that additional focus. But if your focus management is pretty good, then you can also skip this one. Next, we have No Hard Feelings. When misdirection targets your pet, it reduces the damage they take by 50% for 5 seconds. I like this. If you're going to be going into misdirect anyway, or you have points to spend, being able to use that misdirect basically means that you're giving your pet 8 seconds of 50% damage reduction every 30 seconds, which is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. It's a nice additional damage bonus on your pet, and it's a really good, or damage reduction on your pet, a really good way to mitigate and help them stay alive. Then we have Scare Beast. This is a 1.5 second cast that will scare a beast, making it run in fear. Hard skip for me in open world content. I'm not worried about scaring beasts, and I don't want beasts to run around and pull other enemies. Next, we have Intimidation. So this is a 1 minute cooldown, 5 second stun. Very, very nice. This is the reason I said you should pick one of these three here, is to pick up that stun. Obviously, if you are playing as a Lone Wolf, then you don't have a pet to do that stun for you. So pass on this, but go ahead and grab that for the other specializations. And then we have Explosive Shot. This is instant cast with a 30-second cooldown. You fire a shot at your target. After 3 seconds, it explodes and deals fire damage to all enemies within 8 yards. Just a really nice ability to pick up here. To me, this is one of the ones I would probably grab. It's just every 30 seconds, you could just throw it out there to deal additional damage. And then we have Binding Shot. So instant cast on a 45-second cooldown. Fires a projectile that tethers the enemy and any other enemies within 5 yards for 10 seconds, stunning them for 3 seconds if they move more than 5 yards from the arrow. Now, I think that for Survival Hunter, Beast Mastery, and Marksman with a pet, you don't necessarily need Binding Shot, but I think it is very, very good on Lone Wolf marksmanship. It's better than Tar Trap, in my opinion. But you can use both of them. You could Tar Trap one group, and then when you're done, you could go Binding Shot the next one and alternate back and forth. I would definitely pick this up on a Lone Wolf Marksmanship Hunter, and it's not bad for any of the other ones either. It's just, I don't think it's mandatory for those. On the next row, we start with a choice node between Bursting Shot and Scatter Shot. Bursting Shot is instant cast with a 30-second cooldown. This is going to fire a bolt at enemies, knocking them back and snaring them and dealing not a whole lot of damage, honestly. So it's mainly a knockback ability. And then Scatter Shot is a short-range attack that removes all harmful damage over time effects and incapacitates the target for 4 seconds. Honestly, neither one of these, in my opinion, is a super huge pickup. I would maybe grab Bursting Shot for a Lone Wolf Marksmanship Hunter if I was over on this side of the tree, but this is kind of the pet heavy side of the tree, so I don't know that I would be over here anyway. But if you did, you know, for some reason get down this way, sure, but you're probably not. So in general, this is kind of a skip for me for all specializations. Hopefully your pet's doing a good job tanking. You know, I'd rather grab Misdirect with the point here than knock things away from me, generally speaking, just to kind of take my threat, give it to my pet, give them damage reduction. The next talent we have is Territorial Instincts. Casting Intimidation, which is our stun here, without a pet will now summon one from your stable to intimidate your target. So this is the way that you can get this intimidation to work if you are playing Lone Wolf. Okay, additionally, the cooldown of Intimidation is reduced by 5 seconds, which is, you know, not huge, but it's there. So if you do want that 5-second stun and you're going to go Marksmanship, then you can grab this. If you're over here to grab the stun with this, then you can grab bursting shot as well if you feel like that's useful for you. For the other specializations, I'm not too worried about picking this up. You're basically just getting 5 seconds off the cooldown, and that's not that big of a deal for me. Next, we have a 2-pointer. You and your pet have 2.5% increased attack speed. So this will go up to 5% increased attack speed. This effect is increased by 100% if you do not have an active pet. I like this for all specializations, including marksmanship, lone wolf hunter. This is just going to be 5% attack speed for all hunters with a pet and 5% attack speed for those pets. And it's going to be 10% attack speed for our lone wolf hunters. Very, very nice. To me, mandatory pickup on all specializations. You can get there through that explosive shot, or you can get there through intimidation. Next, we have a modification to explosive shot, increasing the damage by 8%. It does a fairly good amount of damage, so 8% actually does add a decent amount of damage as well. Whether or not you pick this one up, I think depends on whether you have points to spare. If you have a point to spare, then you can put it in there. That 8% is going to be nice because you'll just be throwing this out there every 30 seconds. But if you want to put those points elsewhere, I think that's totally valid as well. Next, we have Keen Eyesight, critical strike chance increased by 4% with 2 points in. Very, very good for all specializations. So mandatory pickup for me for all of them, including Lone Wolf. Then we have a modification to Binding Spot shot. This increases the stun duration by 1 second. 1 second on a stun is a big deal. And so this is going to take it from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. If you're going to get binding shot, you're over on this side, you got points to spare. I definitely think it's worth the increased duration on the stun. If you're one of those specializations that I said doesn't need to worry about binding shot, then obviously you wouldn't be picking this up. Next, we have Scrappy. So this says casting Wildfire Bomb will reduce the cooldown of both binding shot and intimidation, your stun, so your big crowd control abilities, by 0.5 seconds. If we go to marksmanship, that's going to be aim shot. And if we go to beast mastery, that's going to be kill command. Honestly, I think that this can be valuable, especially for Lone Wolf Hunter. I find that on Lone Wolf Hunter, the more CC I have, the better. It's either I kill something instantly because I hit it with a super high damage aim shot, or I want it to stay away from me because I need to clean it up. And so having the cooldown reduction on the CCs there can be pretty nice. Definitely not mandatory though. See how frequently you're using your binding shot mixed with your tar trap, mixed with your intimidation, etc. And if you feel like you need that cooldown reduction, then great. But if you can kind of cycle through your various CCs and you're not worried about that, then you can pass on this. On our next row, we have Quick Load. When you fall below 40% health, Bursting Shot and Scatter Shot have their cooldown immediately reset. This one, to me, it's kind of whatever. I would pass on this for pretty much all specializations. I mean, if you're getting to that point where you've used Scatter Shot, you've used your CC, you're still getting your butt kicked, you go below 40%, you need to use Scatter Shot again, I mean, I think you have bigger problems. Next, we have Pathfinding. Your movement speed is increased by 4%. I do really like this one. We obviously need to spend more points to get into here. So, for me, we'll just go ahead and plug some points in here. We'll grab that explosive shot one there. We'll go ahead and throw a point in there. Throw a point in there. Okay, so we got down here. So to me, 4% increased movement speed, mandatory for all specializations unless you're not on this side of the tree at all. So if you're Lone Wolf and you've been mostly on this side of the tree, I wouldn't put points into things just for the heck of it to get over here, but you should have this increased attack speed, which will get you here. And for that, I would say this is mandatory on all specializations. Next, we have Binding Shackles. Target stunned by Binding Shot, knocked back by High Explosive Trap, knocked up by Implosive Trap, incapacitated by Scatter Shot, or stunned by Intimidation. Deal 10% less damage to you for 8 seconds after the effect ends. Again, to me, this is just one you got to play and you got to see how you're doing. I would hope that for open world content, this is not an issue and you don't need 10% damage reduction after using something in a trap or a CC, hopefully it's just dead. So to me, this would be a pass on all specializations. Next, we have camouflage. 1 minute cooldown. You and your pet basically go into stealth mode for a minute, and this heals you for 2% of your maximum health every second while you're in there. This, to me, mandatory pickup for all hunters, all specializations for open world content. The value of stealth cannot be understated. It's huge. And on top of that, this does give you an out of combat heal that you can use that's going to get you a ton of your health back. So you can either use it because you're trying to stealth and get to a quest objective or something like that, or you can just pop it and keep moving as opposed to having to sit down and like eat food to restore your health. And then we have Kindling Flare. Stealth enemies revealed by Flare remain revealed for 3 seconds after exiting Flare. Hard pass for all specializations for me. Next, we have Trailblazer. Your movement speed is increased by 30% anytime you have not attacked for 3 seconds. This one depends. I do like to pick this up for traveling, but also it's going to drop off a lot because you're going to be in combat quite frequently. So really, it just depends on what you're doing, what content you're doing. If you're out there grinding mobs, you don't need this. If you're just trying to complete quest objectives and things like that, you know, this could be 30% increased movement speed while you're in your camouflage, which means you can stealth further to get to an objective. You know, if you're in a cave or something like that and you can just kind of keep running by things and not attacking them, then this can be a boost for you as well. Generally, I pick this up on every specialization, but again, if you're specifically going out to grind mobs or something like that, I would take this point out and put it somewhere else. Next, we have Roar of Sacrifice. So this instructs your pet to protect a friendly target from critical strikes, making attacks against that target unable to critically strike, but 10% of the damage taken is taken by your pet. Hard pass, every single specialization. Who cares? It's you and your pet, right? We don't need this. Next talent point, Serrated Tips. You gain 5% more critical strike from critical strike sources. Yes, take that. Every specialization, get it. Critical strike is great. 5% from all sources can actually add up to be quite a lot. Next, we have Moment of Opportunity. When a trap triggers, you gain Aspect of the Cheetah for 3 seconds, which is going to boost your movement speed. In general, I'm not worried about picking this up for open world content, so this would be a pass for me. Next, we have Born to be Wild. This reduces the cooldowns of Aspect of the Eagle, Cheetah, and Turtle by 30 seconds. Mandatory pickup, all 3 specializations for me. Aspect of the Eagle is going to give you some modifications to one of your abilities. For example, for survival here, it's going to increase the range of your Mongoose Bite and your Mastery. Then we have Aspect of the Cheetah, which is one of your main movement speed abilities. So being able to use that more often is great. And Aspect of the Turtle is one of your really, really strong defensive abilities. So being able to use that more often is huge. And these have like multiple minute cooldowns. 30 seconds off those is pretty nice. Ghillie Suit says you take 20% reduced damage while camouflage is active, and this persists 3 seconds after you leave camouflage. Hard pass on this talent for me on all specializations. This is not what I'm doing with camouflage. I'm not trying to pop it to go stealth and reduce my damage. I'm popping it to go stealth to get past a bunch of enemies to get to a quest objective. That's mainly what I'm doing with this, or I'm using it to heal up some of my health. I'm not popping this in a situation when that damage reduction really matters, so pass. Next, we have Improved Traps. The cooldown of Tar Trap, High Explosive Trap, Implosive Trap, and Freezing Trap is reduced by 5 seconds. To me, this is a pass. You've got so many traps that you can use in open world content. You can just kind of rotate through them. I really don't think that 5 seconds is going to matter all that much for these traps unless you're in some sort of trap heavy build, right? And then maybe you want to pick this up, but in general, no. Our final tier here has Emergency Salve. Feign Death and Aspect of the Turtle remove poison and disease effects from you. This can be nice if you're in a scenario where you're fighting enemies that are poisoning you and, you know, causing disease, but ideally you don't need to use Feign Death. Ideally you don't need to use Aspect of the Turtle either, and even if you do, you know, the cleanse effect on this for a whole talent point, I don't know. To me, this is something you bring into like a particular raid. Maybe there's a delve boss that does poisons and disease and you're playing with someone else. So, or maybe, you know, you're feign death and, you know, getting the aggro off yourself to your pet. Yeah, just kind of, I see very limited use cases for it in open world content where I would rather put that point into something else to increase a stat or give me a different ability. In the middle, we have a choice node between high explosive trap and implosive trap. So high explosive trap will put down a trap that does a decent amount of fire damage and knocks enemies away, which is fine. It's 40-second cooldown, instant cast ability. Implosive trap does the same amount of damage, but what it does is it will deal fire damage and knock enemies up. If you're going to pick one of these, I would go for Implosive Trap in open world content because I'd rather knock enemies up than knock them away. You potentially can knock them into other enemies and pull those in, and you know, you're just fighting more things than you wanted to fight in the first place. I honestly am not worried about picking up either one of these talent points, again, unless maybe you're in like a trap heavy build for some reason. Or if you're rotating through Binding Shot, you're rotating through Ice Trap, Tar Trap, you're stunned, all this stuff, and you're still having trouble. Or maybe if you just want to do mega big pulls on your hunter, then I mean, go for it. But for me, I'm going to skip. And then the final one here, your damage over time effects deal 10% increased damage. This effect is increased by 50% on targets below 20% health. Absolutely love this ability here for pretty much all specializations. They all have some sort of damage over time ability that they can use. I would say maybe if you are playing Lone Wolf Marksmanship Hunter and you are just doing massive aim shots to the point where, you know, you're just aim shot and like arcane shot or kill shot or something to finish them off and you're like not stacking damage to over time on any of the enemies, then you could potentially skip this talent point. But outside of that case, I would say pick it up because you're going to have Serpent Sting or, you know, whatever damage over time ability that you're usually going to have on the enemy at some point, whether that's a poison, whether that's a bleed, which is much more common on hunters. It doesn't really matter. So to me, I would pick this one up. And you could see here, I dumped points into some things just to get to the next tier. We got plenty of points left over. There's a lot of flexibility to do whatever you want to do, pick up, you know, the stuff that I think is really important, and then pick and choose what you like and what fits your build, what fits your playstyle, and what's comfortable for you on a hunter. So that's what I think of the hunter class talent tree. Hopefully that was helpful for you. If it was, throw a like on the video, subscribe, and help the channel grow. Share this video with a friend that's going to play hunter in World of Warcraft, The War Within. Thanks for watching one of my videos. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.